Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and today we are engaging in some community discussion about some tips that you might want to share, some lessons that you might want to share from previous league starts with other players who are getting ready maybe for their first or second league start, or maybe are coming back to Path of Exile from an extended break and they've heard that 3.10 Delirium is just hype, and so they are returning and they could use some tips. So if you're new around here and you're new to Path of Exile, you can of course like, subscribe, and ding the bell to be notified about more video discussions just like this one that'll be helpful to you in your POE experience. If you're a veteran of the channel, then you know the way how everything works around here. There should be some timestamps that are placed above my slightly balding forehead for your convenience, and those are hot linked down below in the video description for your pleasure. So with just under 10 days to go, we posted this yesterday. Essentially, we are looking for tips. And so you all were generous to participate. Thanks. And shout out to everybody who did participate in our discussion. So first off, the Art of Luck says, don't die in hardcore. Yes, let the memes flow through you. This is a general sentiment that ought to be carried over from hardcore into softcore. Dying takes time. And if you don't want to use up your hobby time being dead and wondering what the heck killed me, then don't die. So while it's a meme to say don't die in hardcore, and it's a funny one at that, it's still true in softcore. If you want to be progressing your character and not rerunning a zone or not wasting time with multiple load screens or not losing XP as you get on into the second part of the game, don't die. Build your character with multiple defensive layers that you know are reliable and will push your character forward. One thing that new players do very often in Path of Exile is they just rely on offenses to carry them through. One thing that you'll want to do as you push further and further into Path of Exile is that you will want to experience for yourself the true reality that death sucks and that dying is a waste of time. So you're going to want to layer in multiple different ways that your character can survive and take a hit in POE. All right, next up, don't wait for people to respond for trading requests. It ain't really worth it. That's a great point. A lot of the time, if you're looking for a quick flip on something or just looking for a particular item or a particular map or a particular currency conversion, if somebody doesn't get back to you right away and there's a slightly, we're talking minuscule worse deal, like half a chaos to maybe even 3 or 4 chaos difference in between somebody who's listed and is going to get back to you right away versus somebody who's the best price, oftentimes people who are the best price are actually just price fixers. So if you're playing in a trade league, oftentimes don't wait for people to respond. Oftentimes they won't. Many times an item is mislisted and that person maybe will go D&D mode. Maybe that person has gone offline entirely in order to relist that item. And especially this is true during the first week or two of the league. The trade API is often very slow because of the number of players and the number of items that are being generated in the entirety of the league economy. And so if a player doesn't get back to you right away, it's totally okay for you to move on to the next player. That's totally fine for you to do. Mr. Lava says, don't waste time and expect to make a lot of currency in the axe. Don't be so picky with the maps that you run. Just turn whatever time you have into more maps and more will drop. Make sure that you are familiar with the build you choose and how to level it, and don't choose expensive, unique item dependent builds. That is a great suggestion. Mr. Lava caps it off by saying drink lots of water, eat food, and take some breaks in the first 24 hours. So health advice aside, I'm all with that. Make sure you drink lots of water. Don't go out and change your entire diet just for the weekend so you can power game. You're going to end up actually more tired than what you were if you just kept with your regular sleep schedule and regular eating schedule. That being said, to the rest of what he said here, make sure that your build, if you've got a build that you are following, covers how to level. I see this mistake made by new players every single league, and they drop comments on our channel, on other channels, and our Discord channel, and they say, hey, what's the deal here? I see this is what the end game version of a build looks like. How do I get there? Can somebody explain how to get there? Follow a build guide as your league starter. That will take you from level 1 to where you want to go. Don't follow a guide that doesn't have leveling advice unless you're confident that you can level that build and then change that build into whatever the end game iteration of it is on your own. If a build guide doesn't walk you through the steps on how to do it and you're not sure, then it might not be the right build guide for you as a league starter. It just means, hey, play that one later. Shelve that build until maybe you've got a little bit more experience in the game or a little bit more experience in the league and you'll know how to transition that particular character. Chip says, you probably need more defenses than your 4K life, so don't bitch about metamorphs or other harder content being too hard when you fall over every time they look in your direction. This again goes with that same idea of, hey, points to forehead, don't die in hardcore, right? You want to build layers of defenses into your build. Over the last several months or so, we've been helping players out with Path of Buildings, and one of the things that has just really stood out while we've been streaming and walking players through their POVs is that players oftentimes make mistakes of simply going, hey, I'm in white maps, why can't I push into yellow maps? And you look at their health pool, and they've got a health pool of like 2.5K. For me, if I'm playing hardcore, I don't even want to fight Katava the second time in Act 10 unless I've got like 3.5, 4K HP. Now, that's overkill. I like to overdo it because I want there to be this amount of chance that I'm going to lose my character to Katava in Act 10. That being said, if you've got a really, really small health pool, then you're going to get one-shot. The game is filled with one-shots. And so don't expect for your health pool, if it is small, to carry you throughout the difficult content that the game's got to provide. Dan says, have fun and make sure that it's enjoyable for yourself. This is a great one. Make sure that it's fun. Channels like ours right here, Good Guy Gaming, others as well, are going to go out and give you tons of different suggestions about how to play Path of Exile and how to accentuate your fun, how to grow your fun, how to augment your fun. But don't let anybody tell you how to have fun. Go out and have fun. Enjoy yourself. Let other people suggest and make options, give you build choices, give you maybe gameplay choices of what might be fun for you, but don't let anybody tell you how to play, and don't let other people ruin your fun. So you have to know what's enjoyable for you about Path of Exile and how you're going to grow that amount of fun in the most way possible, right? We're action RPG fans. We love to min-max the hell out of everything. So figure out how to min-max your fun and then go do it. Momo says, just play mines. Lol. Yes, league starting with mines or with traps is a great, great suggestion. Oftentimes, if you're looking for something that's not necessarily fast at clearing maps, but is exceptional early on with incredibly small amount of investment to kill early game bosses and to kill bosses inside maps to get completions on your atlas, then mines and traps are a way to go. They're one way to go. There are lots of other options, but they're a solid one, and Momomo is absolutely right for making that a suggestion. Rimitas says, just have lots of fun. But seriously, do the thing that you like to do and play the build which you like to play. I saw two players a couple of weeks ago arguing about Delve and whether or not it was fun. One player was saying yes, one player was saying no. It's totally objectively possible that both players, from their own individual perspectives, were absolutely right. It could be that Delve was really fun for the one player and really not fun for the other player. They both should just go do what's fun for themselves. Enjoy it. If you find a build that you enjoy, if you find a way to play POE that you enjoy, don't let somebody else ruin that, including me. Don't let me ruin your fun or anybody else. Lootmaster says, the phone crop said 1 hour and I was really happy, but now I see that it's more than 10 days away. Yes, the countdown on the website, sometimes I don't read the first number, and boy, that trolls me. James Morey for America says, the less you compare your progress to others, the more you will be able to focus on just having fun. I got to take a time out here and make a quick quality of life suggestion for you. If other players advancing and pushing past you is something that hampers your enjoyment of the game, one suggestion that I would have for you is that you go in and you turn off those global notifications that are going to tell you where the racers are at. A lot of players, when they're coming into the game early on and it's their first, second, third, maybe even your 10th league, it can be very, very tilting if you're a competitive player in any other space, in any other gaming space. And you come in and you start playing POE and you see that other people are like level 30 when you're level 5. Other people are in Act 6 when you're in Act 2. That can be really, really demoralizing. So if you don't want to see that, make sure that you go into your option settings and you turn that stuff off. Also, mental note in the same regard. If seeing other people do really, really well and you feel like you're competing with them is something that turns off your fun meter as you're playing POE, then don't watch them either. I know a lot of players will go in on the very first weekend and they'll complain and they'll say, oh, I saw so-and-so, such famous streamer got to such and such, and I can't even get to such and such. One player, oh, he already got to level 80 in hardcore and I'm like at level 30 in softcore. Whatever it is that is causing you to have less enjoyment out of your hobby time, your free time, kill it. Get rid of it. Don't worry about it, all right? Go watch that streamer. Go watch that video. when you are feeling like you're not having to compare yourself to that other player. Because seriously, comparing yourself to someone else, whether they be professional, whether they just be somebody with more time, whether they be somebody with more experience, maybe there's somebody who's just literally better at the game than you, right? There are millions of gamers on the planet. In fact, I'm not sure if there are any gamers who are worse at gaming than me. There are millions of people who are better at gaming than me. And yet I can enjoy gaming not because I'm competing with them, but because I'm enjoying the experience as well. So hopefully that's your case as well. If you are finding that comparing yourself to other players is getting in the way of your enjoyment, then remove it. That's one suggestion. Loot Master follows up and says, get poison immunity, ignore chaos resistance, team softcore, base tank Cirrus Boy. Yes, this is a big deal. For a lot of players, in 3.9, they didn't realize that, hey, upgrading your Pantheon is actually a thing that you can do. You can go in onto your Atlas and actually take a look and search for various gods that you can defeat. You take a divine vessel, you put it inside your map device, and then you launch a map that has got a god in it. And when you defeat that map boss, you then will have a full divine vessel. When you come out of that map, you trade that into Sin, and Sin will then upgrade your Pantheon. Upgrades on your Pantheon are character specific. That being said, there can be some that are very important and build enabling or content enabling for some of your characters. For instance, El Hazamin, the hunter, the boss that many of us have to fight as a conqueror as we are progressing through the Atlas, guess what? He becomes a lot easier if you go either CI or if you just become poison immune. Those two things are very helpful. Now, he's still going to do damage to you. It's not going to make him trivial, but that's going to be something that is helpful to you. Conversely, other bosses throughout the game have got abilities that will stun you. Getting the Pantheon that says, hey, if you've been stunned, you're not going to get stunned again recently. Those sorts of various Pantheons enable you to tackle content that you otherwise might get frustrated, die, or simply not want to tackle because you're scared of it. Imagination Zero says, play at your own pace. Choose a build that you enjoy playing. If you choose a build that you don't enjoy, then don't be afraid of switching on day 2. Set goals that you can achieve with your build, whether that's speed clearing, boss clearing, tankiness, max block, lots of regen, etc. Experiment with a build guide. Builds can be tailored to your own liking. All right, I got to say this in conjunction with what Imagination is saying. The worst league start that I ever had, was 3.5 Betrayal League. It was the worst. I decided to go with a flat, physical, stacking, impale-based melee character. What a terrible idea. Impale at that point in time was this new thing. We had Shattering Steel and Lancing Steel as these two new skills, and I was incredibly excited to try them out. It was awful. It was the worst idea I think I've ever had in Path of Exile. It was terrible. And I didn't feel so bad about it because I actually found out after the fact that Mathil had tried pretty much the same thing and then came to the same conclusion I did. This is terrible. This is awful in its early first iteration. And so I made a swap. So on Friday and Saturday, I was just beating my head into a wall trying to play this build. And when I finally took down Kitava with it, I was like, this is just utterly garbage. Got to maps, just kept dying, didn't have enough damage, etc. Didn't have any currency to go out and build up my particular build and couldn't clear maps, like could not clear tier 1 maps. It was just absolute garbage, okay? That being said, threw that idea in the dumpster fire, picked another build with the same character type, different ascendancy, so I needed to go back in and reascend. But other than that, I was able to make an adjustment and make a swap. So if you pick a build, first off, that doesn't work out, make sure you've got another couple of builds open for you as options that are attractive to you as league starters. If you're looking for league starter build videos, don't worry, we've got a whole bunch of them coming out in the upcoming days as we continue to count down towards Delirium's release. Pedro says, start with a build that requires no uniques or expensive rare items to work. It can do all the hardest content, maybe even if that is possible, but that can be scaled with investment for an easier time making currency towards an actual amazing build that you're interested in further down the line. Scaling up your currency and taking a league starter, very often there is this misconception among players that they think their league starter will also be able to do all of their content and get them to all of their goals. That's oftentimes not what a league starter is there for. A league starter is there for you to get a pool of items and a pool of currency if you're in a trade league or for crafting purposes in SSF to then be able to transition to other builds throughout the lifetime of the league. So don't view your league starter as the one and only build you're going to play unless you're specifically desirous of making your league starter the one and only build you're going to play. Michael says, invest in ancient orbs early, get triggered socketed spells craft early. It's a decent currency maker. And don't sell your awakened gems till later in the league when they are 10 plus X. Also, Necro is OP. Pretty hyped for this league as it'll be my second, and I learned a lot in Metamorph. Yeah, so here's the thing about any advice that anybody is giving you about Ascendancies right now. We have no idea what sort of nerfs are coming down the line for skills and for Ascendancies. So we're all getting very, very hyped. We're, 9-10 days out from Delirium. We're all getting very, very hyped. We're all very, very excited. One of the reasons why a lot of content creators, like myself, are not putting out a bunch of build guide videos right now is because if I put out a build guide video right now and everybody goes and watches it and says, yeah, those are the 10 builds I want to go try out, next week, when patch notes come out, all 10 of those builds could be absolutely destroyed on the passive tree, on the itemization, and on the skill gems. They could just be totally destroyed. So this is one of the reasons why it's helpful to hold off, keep looking around for build guides. It doesn't mean don't look at build guides, but it means don't make a final decision until patch note comes out. And once patch notes come out, then we'll actually know if Necro is still OP or not. Lorenzo says, set specific goals for what you want to do. We've got an entire video on this, and that's actually going to be linked down below in the video description if you want to go and check out and maybe evaluate and maybe create for yourself some goals that you've got for the particular league that's coming up. John says, do not invest into currency. I'm not sure, John, honestly, what you meant there, so feel free to clarify down below in the comments. Critical Mass says, offense is the best defense. Monsters can't kill you if they're already dead. Critical, this is true, but please, please, please don't steer new players away from actually using good defensive mechanics. For instance, one example of a great offensive mechanic that also provides you great defense is the freeze mechanic. There are a lot of ways in Path of Exile for you to offensively scale up your damage and freeze stuff. If stuff is frozen, it can't do damage to you while you're dealing damage to it. So freeze is an offensive-oriented ability. You're freezing stuff as you deal damage, but it also provides you with a layer of defense. Another version of this is the explosion mod, right? Any unique item or any passive or any particular ability that you've got that explodes corpses around you. That can be a great way to ward off various monsters that use corpse explosion effects to kill your character. It's an offensive ability that blows up corpses around your character, right? But it's also defensive because it's removing the ability of monsters exploding those corpses to the detriment and to the death of your character. Those are some examples of offensive-oriented abilities that also have an inherent defensive ability. Spencer says, wait until patch notes to plan a league starter if you can. Again, I'll just echo this again. Look for your league starter. Look for maybe even 4 or 5 of them. Say, hey, here are the 5 builds that I'm looking at. Because chances are they won't all get hit on patch notes with the Nerf Hammer. But it could be that they do. So branch out what you're viewing, watch a whole bunch of different people's content on various ideas for league starters, and then evaluate and say, okay, what am I going to rank these in? Is this going to be my number 1? Is this option number 2? Is this option number 3? That way when patch notes come out and we're all watching them, we're all streaming together, we're all watching highlight videos together of the patch notes and what got buffed, what got nerfed, then you can very quickly go and say, okay, how does this impact my build choice number 1 for league starter? How does this impact build choice number 2? And you can simply go on from there. Livio says, don't ditch characters at Act 6 all the time because the passives and skills don't feel amazing, so you want to test another playstyle and end with 20 characters at level 45 or 50 at none beyond Act 7 and instead force a bit more of the endgame campaign and really develop your characters. Livio, I got to agree with you on this. A lot of new players will join our Discord and will say, hey, I'm a new player and I've never pushed past level X, right? Level 30, level 40, level 50. I've only gotten to Act 3, Act 4, Act 5. A lot of players who have never even ascended or seen maps before. And one of the reasons for that is because they see what an end game build looks like on a video, on a stream, on a guide, but then they don't actually get to experience that while they're going through the leveling process. And for a lot of characters, it's very, very difficult for them to push through a new game without something, whether that's a guide or a person, holding their hand through the game and actually explaining this is how you can level your character up, and then this is how you can transition your character from a leveling experience into an end game experience. So I would just encourage you, if you're a new player, make sure you join a community that can help you with that sort of thing. There's a lot of different wonderful communities out there. Of course, we right here in G3, I've got a wonderful, helpful community of over 700 players that are on our Discord who are helpful and willing to give you whatever insight and whatever various tips and suggestions they've got to help you as you level along and hopefully hit end game of Path of Exile where maybe you haven't hit before. Gazub says, pick a flexible Ascendancy that can switch builds later. You will probably want to switch off your starter. He's got a ton more suggestions on here, but this is the one that I wanted to focus on. So when you pick a starter build, one thing that's a good thing to do is to pick a class and then look at multiple different ascendancies in that class that have league starters for you as options. The reason why this is a good idea to do is because if an ascendancy just gets hit in a very, very hard way, it could be that you want to level your character up but not use that particular ascendancy that's used with that particular build. Maybe there's another build that you can move your character over onto. Or let's say you're in a situation like I was in 3.5 Betrayal when I started off and I really wanted to use the Impale mechanic and I really wanted to use a particular ascendancy. Well, when I found out that all of this time that I'd put in on opening weekend wasn't going to pay off for the character that I was hoping in endgame, I decided to go with another character, but not another character class, another character ascendancy, which meant that all I had to do was reascend and then move over my items, move over some of my passive tree, rather than spending a whole bunch of time going back through the 10-act story campaign again. So it's a great, great suggestion to make sure that you pick an ascendancy that you can either pivot onto another ascendancy for or another build entirely without having to go forward again and re-level an entire character. All right, to wrap up, here is Comrade Disc's comment for us. He says, here are my lessons that I've learned this league. It could have been better had I started Necromancer first instead of her being her third character. The first thing I got to say on that, a lot of the times we don't know what's going to be the best and most meta and most OP various ascendancy or build. So if you're looking for like the most best optimal build that there's going to be for Delirium, a lot of the time we don't know that even when patch notes come out. We simply won't know what it feels like in-game to actually play a particular build until the actual patch drops and we start playing Delirium League. So if you're looking for the absolute best build, just be flexible. Play a starter character that will get you a good amount of currency and a good amount of items early on, and then be willing to transition in a relatively short amount of time once there is an established meta that starts to get defined. Secondly, Comrade says playing SSF style while staying in Trade League is dumb. Trade is there, okay? So if you want to play SSF, go play SSF. If you want to play SSF style in Trade League and you just want to trade for like required uniques, I know a lot of players will do that, where they'll play essentially solo self-found, where they'll only use stuff that they found, but occasionally they'll trade for a build-enabling unique. That's one play style that I've seen a lot of players adopting. Third, if you want to be a better player than you all are now, you will eventually go to the POE wiki for more information. I will just say this. I have learned so much about Path of Exile and continue to learn so much. I feel like I'm ignorant on so many different topics. And yet, there's something new for me to learn every single day. I'm almost at 5,000 hours played just on my Steam standalone client. Or, sorry, on my Steam client, let alone what I'm at on my standalone client, which doesn't track the total time that I've spent in-game. At 5,000 hours, I'm still learning new stuff in Path of Exile, which is exciting. It's one of the reasons why I love PoE, because there's something new to learn and share about almost every single day. So if you really want a game that you want to sink your teeth into and continually learn every single time you sit down to play it, then Path of Exile is, of course, the game for you. And there are a ton of different people out there in communities that are willing to help you learn, including, of course, the PoE Wiki and, of course, the Good Guy Gaming channel right here, as well as our Discord. Well, thanks so much once again to everybody for all of your various comments and for participating in this particular discussion. I've had a great time looking over your comments. We're about 9 days away from the time when this particular video goes live, and I hope that Delirium League is the league that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.
Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.